She's young, beautiful, but suddenly she's gone.
No one vanishes without a trace.
Police dig for secrets in a town where blood is thicker than water.
As the pond went down, you started seeing these footprints.
And loyalty runs deep. Join Captain George Duker as he revisits some of the most baffling missing persons cases ever.
People disappear every day, but few investigations leave as much wreckage in their wake as one in Blanchester, Ohio. The case of Carrie Culberson was so explosive, it destroyed one family and ripped a second one apart. But in the end, investigators pulled off a plan that no one thought possible.
"12:02 is clear, I'll be en route."
A woman has called 911. She's frantic. Her 22-year-old daughter is nowhere to be found.
I responded over to the mother residence to take a report about her daughter, Carrie Culberson. Ms. Culberson?
Yes.
I'm with the police department.
Nice to meet
Carrie
you.
was out with several friends the night before.
Her friends pick her up for a night on the town. Carrie leaves her car in the driveway. But when morning comes, Carrie's gone, and so is something else.
Her car is missing.
And what worries her mother most of all is that Carrie has not answered her cell phone.
Miss Culberson told me that this is not like her, totally out of her character.
Blanchester is a small town, and the officer knows Carrie and her family well.
Nice girl, very outspoken, very outgoing.
Carrie is very energetic, very friendly, social. She was a cheerleader for 9 years. She played volleyball. She was just very athletic.
And now she's missing. Brian Edwards and Bill Heidi take over the next day and start analyzing the facts they know.
When we first learned that Carrie hadn't come home that Wednesday, we're pretty confident that Carrie just got in the car herself and was driving out there somewhere.
But where? Detectives start by questioning her friends who spent the evening with her.
We went to a volleyball game with her and then drove around for a while, and then we dropped her off at home.
When they dropped her off, they saw her walking to the porch. And they didn't wait to see if she got into the house or not.
So the last place she was seen was at the end of her driveway, headed to her front door. Not a lot of room in between. Either she suddenly decided to drive somewhere on her own, or something happened before she made it to the front door. There's one tried and true way to find out what happened. Look for the neighbor who keeps their eyes and ears open. Every neighborhood has one.
Detectives canvass the neighborhood and make quick progress. A witness claims she saw something fishy.
I wanted to talk to you about Carrie Culberson.
There was a woman that lived across the street from Carrie and her mom's house, and she was looking out her front window when she saw a man and a woman in her front yard, and they were arguing. And then the man was yelling at her. She was able to see that it was Carrie Culberson. She went to get her husband. And by the time she went and got him up and they came to the window, they were gone, and also Carrie's car was gone.
But who was the man she was fighting with? Edwards calls Carrie's mother and relates the neighbor's story. She thinks she knows just who it is. Carrie's ex-boyfriend, Vince Doan.
Carrie and Vince were from totally different sides of the track.
Carrie and Vince had gone out for a little over a year.
I did not approve of Carrie and Vince's relationship.
Doan is well known in town.
Everybody always kind of wondered, what did she see in this guy?
It's time to pay a visit to Vince Doan.
He pretty much grew up around his dad and rode in the wrecker with him.
Doan and his father run the local towing service.
Hey, is Vince around?
When Edwards gets to Doan's house, his father answers the door.
Well, he can't be reached until he gets back.
His father says he hasn't seen Vince since the night Carrie went missing. Suddenly, the case has taken a strange turn.
Now they're both missing. This is really suspicious. It could just be a coincidence, but for me, it's a huge red flag. Maybe they left together since they're both missing. Or the fact also remains that maybe he took her against her will.
Yeah, that's true.
Now, what about her credit cards or her cell phone, or any trail that she may have had leading up to her disappearance?
We checked her credit cards, we checked her bank accounts. There's been no activity
Nothing
at all.
Since
Nothing.
Days prior to her reported missing.
Yeah.
Could be anywhere.
The couple have been missing for 3 days, and Carrie's family is getting more desperate by the hour.
It is one of the hardest things to deal with, is not knowing what happened to your child and where your child is.
Word gets out. The media attention and the reward bring in a flood of leads.
Lieutenant Edwards.
We had something like 25 sightings.
And one immediately captures Edwards' attention. The caller said he saw Carrie in an apartment across the state. Maybe she decided to leave her life in Blanchester after all.
And we went there to this address and knocked on the door.
Nobody was home, but we turned to leave, and we saw this girl walking towards us up the sidewalk. Bill and I looked at each other like, you know, this is Carrie. Lieutenant Edwards, I'm with Clinton County Sheriff's Office. And we found her, and now we can put this to rest.
She was a spitting image of Carrie Culberson.
But it isn't her.
It is amazing. You two do look alike.
Yeah.
A lot alike.
Oh, she looks a lot like me, but I'm sorry.
I was definitely disappointed that it wasn't her.
And so far, there's still no sign of Carrie. But 1 week after she went missing, cops get a call. Vince Doan is back in town. But Carrie's not with him.
We felt that Vince Doan had something to do with her disappearance, or knew where she was.
Cops head to his house. But when they visit him, Doan won't talk.
Nothing my dad didn't already tell you, all right? You heard from my dad. He told you everything. Just leave me alone.
Yeah, but I want to hear it from you.
Dude, just talk to my lawyer. How about that? Just talk to my lawyer.
Didn't give us any kind of useful information whatsoever.
Doan is acting like a guilty man.
Yeah, I mean, if you're totally innocent of what you're being accused of, I'm going to do everything I can to convince you that, hey, here's where I was.
Cops now fear the worst.
Something serious had happened to her. Vince Doan was responsible for Carrie's disappearance.
But without Carrie, cops can't hold Vince Doan.
So Vince Doan is back in town. But instead of police eliminating him as a suspect, by not talking to the cops, he's become the prime suspect. And with Doan's history of running, you have to keep the heat on.
Detectives return to Doan's father. Now they want to search his property. But he seems to be hiding something.
You know, this is bordering on harassment.
And get that together.
And he won't let them search the property without a warrant.
Back here, she's wearing a...
The next day, armed with a warrant, police search the Doan property.
And we had cadaver dogs check that property.
The dogs lock onto something.
And they kept going to this pond.
If Vince Doan did murder Carrie, he might have hidden her body here.
And these cadaver dogs are trained to indicate on human remains.
Red Honda CRX. If anybody finds anything, just point it out and we'll have the evidence technicians come over.
Detectives decide to drain the pond.
We couldn't wait for this water to get pumped out because we thought as soon as this water's down, we're going to find her.
They don't find Carrie's body, but they do find something suspicious.
As the pond went down, you started seeing these footprints that was in the bottom of the pond, which indicated to me that somebody had been in there recently.
Footprints in water only last about 12 hours, and the cadaver dogs have locked in on this spot. Is it possible that something had been removed from this pond only the night before?
Somebody had been in there doing something.
Police have a hunch that Doan's father waded into the pond right after they confronted him and removed Carrie's body.
We couldn't find any blood evidence or anything, so I don't know if that's true or not. I think the body had been moved if it was in there, and I think it was possibly moved again.
But the question is, where did they put it? Detectives realize this may be a conspiracy that involves the whole Doan family. They subpoena the family's phone records, and they find an unusual call the night before the pond was drained.
This is at 2 a.m. probably.
It's a call to the Doan house from a payphone.
That was down along the Ohio River, and we thought that maybe he was down there and he had used that to either shove her car in or her remains.
Will police find Carrie Culberson in the Ohio River? Carrie Culberson is missing, and police think they may find her in the Ohio River.
We were looking for anything, whether it be her, the car, or maybe some of her belongings.
And it's not long before police make a gruesome discovery. Bones.
We were real hopeful that they had found something this time.
They send them off to the lab for DNA examination. But when the results come back, it's not what cops expected.
They determined that they were animal bones.
Police have hit another brick wall. Carrie Culberson has now been missing for 3 weeks. New leads have slowed to a trickle. They have strong suspicions about Vince Doan, but can't do anything with them.
It didn't seem like we were going to get to the point where we was actually going to be able to charge anybody.
And they realize they're fighting another battle. No one in this small town is willing to criticize the Doan family.
They were afraid, hey, if they can do this to Carrie, they can definitely do this to us, so we better keep our mouth shut.
A month into the case, one person finally does step forward. Vince Doan's sister-in-law has a story that's a bombshell.
Lori contacted our sheriff and told him what happened the night Carrie disappeared.
Lori is married to Vince Doan's half-brother, Tracy Baker. She says Doan came to her house the night Carrie went missing.
Vince Doan had showed up at the back door, and he was knocking on the door.
It was around midnight. Yes.
Lori answered the door, and Vince asked, "Is my brother here?" And she said, "Yeah."
Him and Tracy went straight to the kitchen.
Tracy goes and gets a gun and sticks it in his belt, and they get some garbage bag. Then they leave.
Carrying 7 garbage bags.
But the evening's not done yet.
And they're gone for like 4 hours.
The wee hours of the morning, both of them showed back up.
And they were covered in blood.
And they both change their clothes and take a shower. And then Tracy leaves on his truck.
I can't tell you how many times I've seen 2 suspects turn on each other. Sometimes it's exactly what you need to crack a case wide open.
It's time to track down Tracy Baker. Just one problem.
He fled the state.
Detective Edwards puts out an all-points bulletin in the surrounding states, and it takes just 1 day for a positive ID.
Lieutenant Edwards, his truck was spotted in Burlington, Kentucky. And so I contacted Burlington police, and they set up on the truck and waited for him to return.
Tracy Baker shows up.
They spotted him walking towards the truck, so they went to confront him.
But he sees them coming.
He took off running. It was a foot chase.
Kentucky police take Tracy Baker into custody. In his truck, they find some boots, but there's something suspicious about them.
On the toe and the sole, right by the toe, there was some red stain, which appeared to be blood on it.
Police send the boots off to the lab for testing. If this is Carrie's blood, cops have very compelling evidence that Baker was an accomplice to murder. But when the results come back, police are no closer to finding Carrie Culberson.
It proved to be Tracy's blood and not Carrie's.
With no solid evidence against Tracy Baker, police have to let him go. It's the same problem they faced throughout this case. They don't have enough to charge Doan and Baker with murder.
Well, here you have all this evidence, but yet in this case, not one piece.
Right, we didn't have any physical evidence that we could use in the case.
But a lot of circumstantial evidence, and you had a lot of witnesses.
One witness saw a fight between Carrie and Vince Doan. Cops found fresh footprints in Doan's pond. There was a call to Doan's dad from a payphone by the river at 2 a.m. A witness saw Doan and Baker covered in blood, carrying around plastic bags and a gun. And Tracy Baker is running from police like he has something to hide. The bottom line?
Vince Doan killed her. Where is she? She's dead.
Detectives are at a crossroads. If they charge Vince Doan with murder, they could lose.
The defense is going to claim that, well, we don't even know if she's dead.
This is frustrating. Cops are certain that Vince has killed Carrie. Without a body, it's going to be tough to prove it. But if they could bring him in on a lesser charge and hold him, it might buy him some time to build their case.
They get Vince Doan.
You're under arrest for the murder of Carrie Culberson.
He was arrested and brought in.
They don't charge him with murder yet, but kidnapping.
We could hold him and prosecute him on that kidnapping charge and still buy a little time.
But will they be able to convict him for the slaying of a woman whose body they don't even have? Vince Doan is being held on charges of kidnapping Carrie Culberson, but prosecutors are searching for evidence that will prove that he murdered her. The problem is, Carrie's body is nowhere to be found.
It's definitely unusual to get a conviction on a murder case without a body. It had only been done a couple times in the state of Ohio that we knew of.
Then, prosecutors finally get their break, and it comes from Vince Doan's cellmate.
He had a witness come forward named Mitchell Epperson.
He says Doan confessed to killing Carrie. It's enough to build a murder case on. The case is presented.
You can bring the jury in. Please rise.
And the prosecution's star witness takes the stand. He says that Doan made a shocking confession as the two watched television.
I was watching the 10 o'clock news on Channel 19, and they showed Vince on the news.
And then Epperson says Doan admitted to killing Carrie.
You know, he said that he would lay awake at night and think of 100 different ways to kill her before he did it.
It was, frankly, it was sickening.
This stupid misstep of Vince Doan's, on top of everything else, cost him the trial.
The jury thought that he was guilty as hell, pardon my French, you know, and he was.
The jury recommended that he serve a life sentence without the possibility of parole, so he's going to be in prison the rest of his life. And I looked over, he started crying.
Prosecutors have achieved a mighty feat, getting a murder conviction when the body hasn't even been found.
You got to hand it to this team. They made all the right moves and were able to do something few prosecutors are able to do.
He and his family and a lot of people, I'm sure, thought that it could never be done. But it was done. And rightfully so, because the guy's guilty.
Later, Doan's half-brother, Tracy Baker, gets 8 years in prison for his role in helping Doan hide Carrie's body. Carrie Culberson has never been found.
So, Doan bragging to his cellmate, that was kind of the final nail in the coffin for him.
Yeah, not only did he do himself in, but also his brother as well, that he actually did this.
And I'm thinking that probably the real closure you're looking for here is ultimately finding that victim's body. Closure for yourself and closure for the family as well.
Yeah.